Hello, thank you for joining me tonight. I'm glad that you're here, and if you like what you see, I hope that you'll hit the subscribe button so that we can do a lot more crafting together. So tonight what we're going to do, we are going to make these little flowers right here. Now I'm sure you've seen them all over YouTube. Everybody has been making them, so I thought that I would try my hand at it, and this is what I have come up with. So I made this one using Distress Inks, and this one is a combination of Distress Inks and some acrylic paint. So here's what we're going to do. I started with a 4-inch square of book page. I had some old books, so I cut a 4-inch square of book page. Then, let me make sure I'm in camera, I folded my book page into a triangle, just like that. And I always like to make everything good and flat, so I just went across it with my nails. Okay, then I folded it again, like that. Made a second smaller triangle out of it, and then I made a third even smaller triangle. So you fold it 3 times to come up with a triangle just like that. So for one flower like this one, you need 3 triangles. So I've got my 3 triangles. Actually, I've got a triangle here I'm going to show you how to cut, and then I've got my flowers ready to be tweaked and made into the flower. Okay, so once you fold your triangle and you cut it, you're going to end up with something like this. And you fold it out and it looks like a heart, and then you fold it again and it looks like 2 hearts, and then it looks like a flower. It reminds me of playing with paper dolls when I was a little girl. Okay, so here's my triangle. I want the fold side with the point going down. Here's my template of the one I've already cut, and I'm going to lay it right on top, even with the fold line, not the open line, okay? Then I'm going to take my trusty scissors and even them back up here and try to make sure I'm on camera. I'm learning this. Mike got me a camera holder. All right, so I'm going to cut. I'm going to try to make the same type of shape that I cut with my earlier petal. That's why I'm using it to trace by. And you want to cut down that second side, but not all the way to the point, okay? So this was my template. I'm going to lay it aside and we're going to see how we did. So we're going to open this up. So far it's looking pretty good. So that's not bad. There you go. You've cut your first flower. You need 2 more just like this. Okay, once you get them cut, you're going to put them all together and you're going to cut the tips off. Okay, I've not cut my tips off yet because I decided it's easier to paint them and ink them before you cut the tip off, because you end up with a hole in the center. Excuse me, my allergies are working on me. Okay, so tonight I've got these 2 already Distress inked, and I used acrylic ink over the top of them, and I do them on both sides. So I've got 2 like that. Well, looks like I did a bad job. 2 like that. I need to acrylic this one, and then I'm going to show you how to ink this one, okay? So let's acrylic. So I've got some purple acrylic ink right here. One thing I learned earlier today, if you kind of spread your bristles, the bristles of your brush apart, you end up with this tiger effect like on this, which I thought was really cool. So I'm going to dip my brush into my ink, and I'm going to, oh, this is not going to be easy. I've got my camera too close. Okay, let's get this back in frame. So I'm going to dip, and I just pop around my little flower, just like that, okay? And we pop and pop and pop and pop. And it gives it a little different effect than if you were just putting ink. I need a little more paint here. Whoops, I dropped the lid to the paint. That's perfect. The sweeper will get it. Okay. Let's see if I can lift this up just a shade more and work a little easier. Okay, back in frame, we're going to make our little prints. And you can have as much or as little paint on your brush as you want. Okay, and so you just work your way around. And you're going and going. Doesn't matter if you make a mistake or if you make what you think is a mistake, because it's really not a mistake. In nature, nothing is absolutely perfect. Every little plant that you see has some type of flaw, or what we might think is a flaw, but it's still beautiful. And in art, there are no mistakes. There are only design opportunities, because you can continue working on something if it's got what you consider a mistake. You can put more ink on it, or you can put a sequin on it. You can do something to cover it up. The trick is to just keep going. So as long as you keep going and you keep working on that piece, I just about guarantee that you're going to end up with something that you really like. Now on my finished ones, I went down the little spines to give it a little center color. And this one, see, there's a design opportunity. I gave it more than I had done on this one, on the orange one. So we're gonna pop down through there. We're gonna give it just a little bit of purple. Okay, so we've got both sides now of this one done. We're going to lay this over there and let it dry. And acrylic paint dries fairly fast, so maybe we'll be through with the inking and everything by the time we get this third one done. So let's add a little more acrylic paint. Let's get our inking dauber out, and let me spray this so that we get some of the paint up. Okay, kind of clean as we go. All right, so I used a blue distress ink. It's a Tim Holtz Salty Ocean Distress ink, and I've distressed one side of it and inked one side of it. Now I'll tell you a little secret. When you ink, you're supposed to start away from your project and swirl onto it. I am one of the world's worst inkers, okay? I don't ever do a really good job of inking. But on these, if you start in the V part of your petal, you're not really gonna catch that dreaded circle look of your ink dauber. It's just gonna flow kind of naturally. And if you feel like you've got too much, that's a great place to put some acrylic paint when you start painting them, because you can cover up a lot of sins with acrylic paint. Okay, we're almost done with the inking, and which is why I went ahead and did the other ones. It takes a little while, and it takes a little while for the acrylic paint to dry. I'm just going to hope that by the time we get through fiddling with the other two petal parts, that this one will be done and dry. Will be good and dry. Okay? All right, so that is inked on that side. Now I'm just going to kind of swirl it around and run up the veins a little bit, just to give it a little bit more color, make it a little brighter. Okay, now we're ready for the acrylic paint. So we're going to daub our paint in, and we're going to tap, 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 and we're going to tap our way around these petals. And when you feel like you're running out of paint, you just dip your brush in a little more paint. And again, you see how this is, I can't even see it here. Do you see the paint? There we go. You see the paintbrush and how it's kind of separated. The brushes are separated. And I wasn't even in frame, was I? Okay. Tap, 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 tap. We're tapping the brush all the way around the petals. I apologize if most of this has been done out of frame. I gotta get my system a little better orientated, don't I? Okay, one more petal to go and we'll be through tapping. Let's do a little bit in the center and pop out just a little bit up the veins. Okay, that flower has been acrylic and inked on both sides. We're going to lay it aside. We're going to put our brush in some water. I'm going to go ahead and wipe up this paint because as sure as I'm living and breathing, I'm going to stick my elbow in it and I'll have purple elbows. Okay, now we have 2 petals that we're going to be working on while the third one is drying. So the trick to this is on your first one, you're going to cut out 1 petal, okay? And I didn't cut these out before I painted because it was easier, I discovered, to do this, do the painting all in one piece. So I have cut 1 petal out. Okay, don't throw that petal in the trash can, you're going to use it. All right, so there's 1. On the second one, you're going to cut 2 petals out. You're going to cut like a heart. You're going to cut a heart shape out of your flower. So let's take a look here. I think I'll cut this one out because its acrylic is still kind of damp and it can be drying while we're doing other things. So I'm going to cut to the center. And I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to cut to the center. Okay, so there are 2 petals. Now on the one that is drying, on this one, we're going to cut 3 petals out of this one, but we're not going to do it right now because we're not quite dry yet. So you've got a heart shape and you've got 1 little petal. We're going to set them aside. Now then, on this one, you need to decide which side you like facing out. Oh, I forgot a step, see? I knew I would. All right, we're going to fold these back up. Let's see here. Fold it back up into your little triangle. Okay. Fold this one back up into your little triangle. And let's see how dry this one is. We're going to fold it back up into its original triangle, perhaps. Yep. Okay. So we're going to put all of them, we're going to stack them up just like this. And we're going to snip the bottom out of them. Okay? So we're going to cut maybe that much off. Not a whole lot. See there? Okay. And these, go ahead and cut now so we don't forget. But what I found was that I ended up trimming them a little bit more before I did my gluing. So 1 and 2. And we won't have to worry about the third one because it's been cut, but we'll probably cut some more of it. All right, now let's open these back up. And if your acrylic has stuck to itself, that's okay. It usually does that. You can get it to come apart. Just work it carefully. Figure out where your blooms open up. Okay. Don't force anything. You'll have to start all over. All right. There we go. There's one. There's the second one. Okay. That's the one that we're laying aside. See that hole right there? We're laying this aside to finish drying. The hole is cut out so that it's easier for the flour to lay flat once you're finished with it. But as you can tell, I didn't have a lot of luck with mine laying flat anyway. So I don't think it really matters if you're going to put them on a stem, whether they lay flat or not. But if you're thinking about putting them on the wall, then yeah, that might matter. You might have to do some smushing to get them to do what you want them to. Okay, come on, little flower. Where do you open up next? I see it. There we go. All right. So 2 petals out, 1 petal out. This one over here will be 3 petals out when it dries. So the one with 1 petal out is going to be your bottom flower, okay? The reason we cut it out is so that we're gonna bring it back together to make a flower shape. So what I want you to do on yours is decide which you want to be the underneath of the flower and which you want facing out. And we're going to put our petals together just like that, okay? That's the intent of our flower. But first things first, most flowers, their petals have a curl. So we're going to curl. I've got a little chopstick here. I'm going to curl. It doesn't have to be a lot, just some to give it some definition. You roll it on there. And it's easier to do it before you glue. Don't ask me how I know. If there can be a hurry-up mistake in paper arts, I have done it. But the best way to learn is by making mistakes, because once you do the mistake, you'll remember not to do it the next time if you're lucky. All right. So we just curl all of those. See, it doesn't take long. Okay, they're curled. Now, we want some glue. And tonight I'm using Fabrifix. I love Fabrifix because it gives you a chance to move your paper if you're not happy where it ended up. Some girls like art glitter glue. Some folks like plaid glue. I like the Fabri-Tac because, like I say, I can move my work because I never get it where I want it the first time. And with some of the other ones, they grab so quickly you don't have time to move them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some glue. This is slow coming out. I'm going to put some glue right in here, okay? And I'm going to lay my petal in just like that. So that what was going to be 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I guess it was 7, 8 petals is now 6 petals. And then with this one, I'm going to roll it in and make 5 petals. But what have I got to do first? Let me cap my glue so it doesn't bubble out. I've got to roll my petals. Now I'm going to look to see which side I like the best. I think I like this side the best, so I'm going to roll these petals this way. Now on this flower, I rolled my second roll toward the inside, and I kind of like that. I might roll every other one to the inside on this one just to make it a little different. So there's one to the outside. Let's do one to the inside. Let's do one to the outside. one to the inside, just to see how it'll look. You don't know till you try, do you? Okay, one to the outside. And one to the inside. Okay. So here's our flower. And we're going to glue it. So let me put some glue on. My glue's getting thick. You can add nail polish remover in your glue bottle to make it last a little longer. Okay, I'm going to put that like that. I'm going to hold it just a second. See how it's sliding around so that I can move it if I don't like where it's at. That's what I like about using Fabri-Tac, okay? Because it gives me just a minute to play with it. And when we glue this in, we want to glue it so that our petals are kind of offsetting each other. And they don't have to be perfect. Again, nothing in nature is perfect, is it? Everything is a little different. Everything has a little quirk. So I'm going to run some glue around the outside of this so that I can set it down inside the base petals. And it will stick onto the side walls of the base petals. Okay, so let's see here. We want to offset the original. Okay. And so then we're going to hold. Oh, and I can actually see the hole. That's the first time that's happened. All right. So that is part of our flower. And I kind of like it going in and out and in and out with the curve. All right. Now we're going to take this one, our third one. We're going to flip it around. We're going to decide which one we like. And we're going to take 3 petals out. Okay. I want to take this petal out, this petal out, and this petal out. And the reason is because my purple colors are pretty even the rest of the way around the flower, but these 3 right here are not. So I'm going to cut those 3 out. There's 1, 2, 3 petals we're cutting from this flower. Okay. Now, we're going to set those aside with our other little baby petals. And we're going to look at this. We're going to do this. We're going to lay these. Now this one I didn't do quite so close together. So maybe I'll come out like this. Okay? Maybe I won't go all the way in. So we're going to roll our petals. I always forget to roll them, don't I? We're going to roll these petals. And here's another thing you can do. You can roll them side to side so that you get kind of a, well, it's not showing up on that. On cardstock it does better. You can make it so that it curves out on both sides. It's a cupped curve. I think would be the way to explain that, maybe. Okay, we're going to roll. And if you roll your fingers on your chopstick after you've got your paper rolled up, it kind of helps to make the curve become memory to the paper. So we're rolling and rolling. And we're rolling. The thing that takes the longest is the inking on these little flowers. It doesn't take any time to actually put them together. It's the inking All right, we're going to get our glue going right here. And I'm not going to go all the way up because I want there to be, I want this other petal to kind of do a little bit of its own. See there? I'm going to hold it for a second so that it dries. I think I got this book out of my basement because I'm a big reader, but if you don't read, but you like the idea of turning old books into something, go to the thrift store. You can buy old books for $1 a piece. Your only constraint in making this kind of flower is how big the page is, so that the width of your page determines the size of the square. Because if I had been using a big book, I could have made a square larger than 4 inches. Okay, we're ready now to set this one in. Let's see how it's going to look before we glue. We're going to offset it also. And now we've got some dimension going on because of those different curls that we had with this other one, okay, with this layer. All right, so let's do this. Uncap the glue. And we're going to work our way around the base of the outside of this layer of the flower. And we're going to, again, offset this set of petals from the set that they're going on. So you get lots of curves going on in your flower, okay? And again, that's pretty cool because I can see that hole. That's going to help me when I put these together. All right. These center parts, remember we cut their tip a little bit, but we're going to do a little more cutting. And the reason why is if I were to fold this and glue this now, if I didn't drop it, if I were to fold this and glue it now, when I glued it in, it would be sticking up some. And I don't want it to stick up because the inside of a flower doesn't stick way up beyond the petals of the rest of the flower. Or at least I don't think they do. I don't like the way they look when they do that because mine, I made some last week and they didn't look right to me. So I'm going to cut these off just a little bit. Once I get them all picked up and put together. We're going to cut just a little snip. Just a little snip. I only cut that much. Okay? All right. So now we need our little chopstick. And the other thing you can do on these, see, I'm just going to neaten these up just a smidge. Now you might see little things in nature that you think need to be trimmed. So I could have left that on there. But I went ahead and cut it off. Who cares? Okay, here we go. What do we want showing to the outside? I want these deeper purples. So I'm going to roll, 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 roll your boat. Okay, and now comes the fun part of trying to make this fit. And look there, that's going to work. That's how it's going to lay in there. So we're going to get our glue and we're going to just put a little dot. And I see that my rolling didn't work too well right there. I don't know how I squished that, but I did. Okay, that looks better. Okay, we're going to put a little dot of glue right there. And we're going to bend this around so that we have that for our flower. Okay. All right. And we're gonna see how that looks. Looky there. It's getting prettier every second, isn't it? Okay, we're gonna take our glue and go around the outside. Now our flower is sitting like this, and once again we want to offset our little petals. And look how that's looking. It almost looks like a blue tiger lily to me. Okay, next set we're going to roll, roll, roll. And again, I like the deeper color on the inside. Okay. And with this, we're going to do, yep, this one's tricky. We're going to take the big end of our chopstick and we're going to roll this just to get a shape, and then we're going to let it come out just a little bit, just like that. Okay, and we're going to put just, ooh, my glue has gotten goopy, hadn't it? We're going to do this right here. There. That's exactly what I wanted. How did I get so lucky? All right, well, I'm holding that so it will dry. Let's see if I can clean my glue bottle up a little bit. Yep, there we go. Ooh, it moved. Okay, let's hold it from the inside. I may need to end up trimming this off. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to trim it just a little bit. See what I was talking about with it being big? That cone gets smaller down toward the bottom. And so when you set your flower in, it's just too big for the rest of the flower. So I'm going to cut this off just a little bit. I'm dropping things on the floor. I'm going to cut it off just a little bit so that it sits in there just a little better. Okay. I like that better. All right, now we're going to take our glue again, and we're going to go around the outside of this set. And you see how these cutting these loose, cutting them away from the bigger petals, this gives your flower dimension. So we're going to drop this in there like that, okay? And I'm actually going to squish it in there. Now this one, this last petal, we're going to roll this way. Okay, we're going to roll it into a little tube and then spin that chopstick around to get the memory in the paper. And then I'm going to put some glue right here on this tip. See that little tip right there? If I can get my glue to come out, I'm going to put glue right there. Okay? And then I'm going to do that right there. And I'm going to hold that, maybe. Yeah. And look at my little inside of my rose. Can you see that? That's just so pretty. So pretty. All right. Now, let's take this on a test drive and let's drop it down in there. And looky there. So let's get some glue on that so that we are done with our rose. All right. I'm going to push it down in there. It unfurled just a little bit, but that's okay. There is our rose. I really do like that. It's very delicate and pretty. You could make some leaves to go behind it. You could put a stem on it because you've still got that hole. See, you turn it over, you've got this hole where you could run a florist wire. Make a whole bunch of these and put them in a mason jar and set them on your kitchen table for a pretty table center. You can do all kinds of things with these. I think I'm putting one on my studio door. I'm going to paint my studio door turquoise, and I've got a great big butterfly on it, and I've got some huge flowers, so I'm going to have to take those down, clean my door, and paint it. But then these would be right pretty on there. And once I get all that done, I'll take a picture and show you. All right, thank you so much for joining me in YouTube land, and I will see you on the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.